Hello. Hi, Terry. Hi, Julie. Hi, Connie and Joni. It's kind of like Romper Room, isn't it? Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. Come in, come in, come in. Was looking for something. Didn't find the thing I wanted, but I found something that would kind of do. Good to see you all. Hi, Joan. Hi, Shu. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I think we all need to be together today. I do. I am glad you're here. Okay. I think I got it. Good to have you guys here. Good to be with you. It's always good to gather in a group. When things are wacky in the world, it's good to be together as a group. Hi, Peggy. It is good to be in a group. Yeah. So, on Monday, we did some fabric, playing around with an idea, and using the Pentel dye sticks and stencils and watercolor and stuff like that. And so that I have the results of that, and then I thought, well, we'll do something with that maybe. Anyway, yeah, so I'm glad you're here. Actually, I have one more thing I need to go get. Let me go do that before I start with you guys. So talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Okay, sorry you guys. I meant to get that before I started and I forgot. Anyway. Barbara Clark, hello. Hello, hello. Good to have you here. Thank you for being here, Barbara. I appreciate it. Sorry, a little breathless. I used to just walk around the corner from this area to my sewing area. Now I got to walk to the other end of the house. So, yeah. Anyhow. Okay, so there's no other way to say it than it was a tough week. And we're going to hit that head on. And then we're going to do some stuff. Because this has happened before where I've had to address some world event that's gone on. It's not always so close to home. This one was pretty close to home. Anyway, those of you that aren't in the United States may not be as aware of it. I don't know, but there was a very dramatic situation in the United States this week. And it is changing. The situation is changing and not changing as much as developing constantly right now, as you would expect. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk for just a second. And because I can't pretend it didn't happen. And so we're going to talk for a second. And then we are going to do what I do best. And that is to take that and take it and put it over here. And it's not to pretend that over here that this part of the room doesn't exist, but it is okay to put it over here for a while, and then we can deal with it later. But we don't have to deal with it like this all the time, where it's just smacking you in the face constantly. And so we're going to talk briefly, and we're going to hit it head on. I am not reading the chat right now, and I'm going to ask you that if you have something to say in the chat about the situation that happened here in the United States on Wednesday, I ask that you be kind, and I ask that you would be thoughtful, and that that's what I'm asking you to do. And then we will get to a point here in a few minutes where we're not going to address it at all here, because it doesn't belong in this space, but we can't pretend it didn't happen. So that's what we're going to do. Okay? So there was an assassination on a young man who was a father. He was a husband, a father. He was very active in the political arena, which is something that I choose not to participate in. Here, especially. We don't do that here. There are two subjects that are off limits in this chat and in this room and in this arena. And that is politics and religion of any kind. Not because I don't have very strong opinions, and not because I am not a believer, but it is because I want this space, which reaches around the world, to be inclusive and to be a place where anybody can come and feel warm and welcome. And so it's not that I stick my head in the sand. Please do not misunderstand that, because that's not the case. But it is, I choose not to bring that, my opinions, my feelings, my outlook, my belief system, I choose not to bring it into here, because I want anybody that watches a video, hopefully, or live, to feel welcome and feel like they can come here regardless of politics, regardless of belief systems. They're welcome here. But nevertheless, as human beings, when you can set belief systems aside, as human beings, this was a tragedy all the way around. There are no winners. There are a lot of losers, but there are no winners in this arena, because a young man who was a husband and a father and a well-loved public figure was murdered by, as it appears now, by a younger person whose brain was not even fully formed yet. And I have no idea, and I'm not going to get into any kind of discussion about any of the things that went into shaping why he chose to take that action. We're not going to go there. We are simply looking at the fact that this was a tragedy, and it's a tragedy all the way around. And so what can we take away from that? And there's some things, because I have literally, you guys, I have thought about this and what I was going to say today for 3 days. If your heart doesn't hurt over this entire thing, take a look at your own self, because as humans, as people, you have to be moved by what occurred, and you just have to be, regardless of the belief system, the ideologies, the anything else. Just from a level of humanity, we have to be moved by what occurred and changed by it. None of us will ever be the same by that. The world has changed. Humanity has changed. We are changed people because of what happened, for many reasons. And I hope that, on a good note, that we're changed in a positive direction to be more loving and caring, and that we hear people, and that we make people be seen, and that we care for each other more than maybe we did before Wednesday happened. That we take those moments of prompting, those little inner knowings of, I need to reach out to so-and-so. I need to, send them a note. I need to send them a card. And that you don't just think it, but you do it, We also found out this week that a young couple that had just celebrated their second anniversary, we went to their wedding, and we found out this week that he was diagnosed with cancer, and he's in a real fight, and he's in his 20s or something, and it's just earth-shattering to think about the things that are going on. And it's like, okay, what can we do? What do you do? And we were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to get to see them yesterday and spend a few minutes, So, what I want to say to you, and then we are going to put this over here to the side, is you can't ignore what happened. I can't ignore that this young man and his wife, other situation I just mentioned. I can't ignore that this has occurred. And we know his parents, and we know them fairly well. Can't pretend those things don't happen. Those things do happen. So what do you do? And how do you listen to that voice inside, that intuition inside, and then act on it? Send cards, pay a visit, let people know that you care about them, reach out when you have the opportunity, and just be a part of be connected to the people in the world, the big world, the little world, our families. Connect. How do we connect? And how do we show love to other people? Because that's what's going to overcome this stuff, is we have to be more loving and show more love. That doesn't mean to allow yourself and your belief system to be steamrollered over the top. But it does mean that there are so many people that don't directly impact us, don't directly impact me, but they certainly impact a lot of people. There's not just two people involved in this. There's a world of people involved. So listen, and then act, and then how can you be kinder and more loving? And what can you do to be light to people who are feeling very lost in darkness? How can you do that? So, anyway, there you go. That's what I have to say about that. I was looking for the doll that I was going to show you, and I cannot find her. She's packed somewhere. And so I thought I can show you a picture of her. I did a series of dolls back in the, I don't know, late 90s, mid to late 90s. They were called the Heart Dolls. They're 3 separate dolls holding hearts, and they occurred in a time in my life when things were a little, state of flux. And so one in particular that if I had the doll to show you right here, I would definitely show you, because she shows better than she's going to show on this camera. But this is the doll right here that I'm going to reference. One of the things that I do when I am particularly impacted by something in the world is I have to make something. I have to be creative somehow. That's what I have to do. That's how I work through difficult things that happen in the world. So this doll named Hannah is the one who inspired this. And if you look at her very closely, she has a whole arm load of hearts. And that's why I wanted to show her today, because that was a doll that showed up. And I don't know that you can see, but the big white heart that's the biggest of what she has in her arms has been broken, but it also has been stitched back together, and there is a reason for that, and each one of these hearts is symbolic. And this was the doll that I created at the time of the Littleton, Colorado, I think is the town, the shooting where the 2 high school boys went into the school and killed so many of their classmates and teachers and so forth. And that was a really, really difficult moment. It was a difficult time for everybody, but it certainly was for me. My son was not much older than those young men, and I'd had a lot of boys in my house during the time that our son was in high school and so forth. And so that's how I chose to deal with that, how I felt. I put all that energy into something, and it happened to be in the form of a doll. That was one. This was another. This is the actual doll. This was another one. This was Hillary's heart. She's holding a hand-felted heart, and she hangs from the ceiling. And then there was the first one, who was Harriet, and Harriet's heart was the original doll. Anyway, I'm just giving you an example of how I handle those kinds of emotional overloads. It's emotional overload because if you can't deal with it for yourself, it's really hard to be anything other than just broken in front of everybody else. And so that's where I chose to put that energy and all of that. That's where that went for me. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to just take all of that intensity, not pretending it didn't happen, not acting like we have answers, not acting like I'm going to tell you how this should have been handled or whatever. You should have from now until the end of the world or the end of our lives or whatever, and it's not going to change anything. But what we can do is we can go from here forward, but you're left with all these feelings and emotions. You got to do something with them, and so we're going to take those, and the yucky, icky things right now we're going to set to the side, and then we're going to hopefully do something that is I don't know what. We'll just see what we can do, where we can put it. Okay? All right. All right. So there you go. We're going to move forward. Okay? And having said all that, I am very glad that you're here. I'm very glad that you chose to come into this space today, right now, right in this moment. If it gets to be too, I don't know, emotional or whatever for you, please don't feel compelled to hang out here. It's okay. I'm not for everybody. I don't know why. Because, anyway, you gotta laugh, people. You gotta laugh. Okay. All right. So, let us take a giant collective breath. And let's move on. Okay? All right. Let's look at some pretty stuff. I normally would not necessarily drag this stuff out and show you because it has to do with the VIP class. But you know, I thought, I think I'll show it to you. Because I think it has a little bit to do with what we're going to do today. And besides that, they're just pretty. And every once in a while, you just need to do something that's pretty. Okay? If you have any questions, put them in all caps, and let's move forward. Okay, so this past week, I had the VIP class, and we were talking about needle books and different kinds of stitching things and decorative things. And so I thought, I'll just kind of give you a sneak peek as to what we were looking at. Some things that we may work with some of these ideas a little bit today. I don't know. We're just going to see what happens because we're going to work with the fabric that we made Monday night. Okay? So this is a piece of felt. I'm just going to run through real quickly with you as to what these are. This is a piece of felt. This is to make a needle book, which is a thing that holds your needles. So it literally is a little book that holds your needles and pins and whatever. So this one is felt with a fabric collage on top of it. And from this is not the same one, but it is similar. This is another one. This one is not done on felt, but it is a fabric collage. And this one is in progress, but it is being stitched. And so I thought I would show this to you. This has absorbed a lot of energy this week, as I have been stitching, slowly stitching, and whether you're slow journaling, slow sewing, slow stitching, slow talking, whatever it is, slow whatever, that is a good place for, and I think that's probably why creating dolls like this have, that's been so good for me through the years, because it's a slow activity and it causes me to slow down and have a place for emotions to land and work. As I'm working with my hands, then they dissipate and start moving out. And often that's when I get ideas of things to do also, or someone to talk to, or someone to contact, or whatever. Anyway, so this kind of thing on my left will become something similar to the one on the right. This one like I said, is in process. This one is just basted together, ready to go. But you can do something similar to this and make a book cover out of it, a journal cover. You can do whatever. You can make it a fabric book. You can do all different kinds of things. Having a place for the movement of your hand, the pulling the needle. It's like writing with a pencil or a pen. The act of moving your hand is very therapeutic. It's really, really good for mind, body, and soul. Okay, so there's a couple of the ones that, couple of ideas that we worked on. This is one that is made from an old cutter quilt. A cutter quilt is an old quilt that is disintegrating. I don't know that you can see. I have actually covered up the holes on this. This is one where the fabric is rotting from the top. Can you see that? So the fabric is rotting from the top. It also is rotting from the inside. And so when you have a quilt that is no longer serviceable, there's probably still parts of it, unless the entire thing has just completely rotted away. There are parts of it that you can still use. And so this is going to serve as a little book of some time, probably a needle book, because I do a lot of different kinds of stitching projects or things that I like to have, different collections of things that I'm working on. And so I like to have, you know, instead of having all of your needles in one thing with the one project that you really want to work on, but then your attention gets turned over here and you go, well, I think I want to work on this instead of that. Well, if you have more than one needle book or more than one set of supplies, it makes it easy. So, and they also make really good gifts too, by the way. Here's another one. This is a piece of pre-quilted fabric. See, it's like pre-quilted stuff. It had cotton fabric on both sides. And then I took another piece of fabric and cut out some flowers that went with it and basted them on here. And then I'll probably do some stitching to embellish these flowers on here. But that's a super simple one to do. That is like having a quilt like this, except it's machine done and it's not disintegrating. So that's another way that you can turn something quickly into a needle book or a fabric journal or what have you. You can also do that with pre-quilted placemats. Easy, good source of things to work with. There are classes here on the website on fabric paper. I have done lots of renditions of fabric paper. That's what this is. So it is a combination of paper and fabric, which turns it into makes the paper so that it no longer rips. And this is not momigami. This is literally fabric paper made with kids' construction paper. So I took a piece of that and just cut it down. This is fabric that is on here, and then I'll do some stitching into it and line it and make it into a little book or a little needle book. This is another example of fabric paper. So this is done just in neutral colors. You can, in a very different stitching pattern. Both of these are done by machine, but you can also do them with by stitching by hand if you wanted to. It's a lot quicker by machine. This is a piece from an old collar or something, and that little thing is from a piece of lace someplace. But this one is so busy it didn't really need a whole lot, so I just cut this bow off of the lace collar and thought, well, I'll use that on there, and then add the word today on there. Again, it has to be lined and finished. And this one is this was a gift that my mom and dad brought back from a trip that they went on, and it actually is a wallet. It's meant to be a wallet, but the beauty of this is it's got all these pockets already in it, including a zipper pocket. I'm not so crazy about the Velcro on it because it's a very sticky Velcro, but there's no way to get that Velcro off without taking the whole thing apart. Okay, but because it already is in half, and it's a precious, adorable, perfect size to turn into a little needle book. So adding pages into it and then having pockets for various things. It already has all this Velcro on it, so the Velcro goes the whole length of it, so it doesn't make any difference if it gets a little fat. The Velcro can still has room to grab onto. I just added the word here, and this is a flower that is made from sparkle organza, circles of sparkle organza. The reason that the petals cup up is because I singed around the circle with a candle, and because this is nylon, it just melted. So you should try that. Be careful, have some water available, but I did 3 different circles and stitched them together and put some jaggedy ribbon or fabric, black fabric. I may have even melted that too, I don't know, and a bead in the middle of it. And then I just attached that to the cover of this because I cannot stand picking up something when it's the same on both sides. I need to know where the front is, and that tells me where the front is, and I'm good. And that way also, if I have things in this pocket, which once this has pages stitched into it, will form 2 pockets, one on each side. And if it's done that way, then the stuff won't fall out. However, if I pick it up this way and I have stuff in those pockets, it could easily fall out. That's another reason I want to know that this is the front, because that way the stuff will stay in my little pockets. Alright, so that's taking something that's already made and just add to it, right? Okay. So that's kind of where my head has been this week, is in making things out of small bits and pieces. Okay, let's take a look at the fabric that we worked on Monday night. This is just muslin, and I wish I could tell you right now. I don't remember. Too much has flowed through my head. I think this one was done with the dye sticks, the Pentel dye sticks. I think somebody who was here may remember it. We did 2 with the dye sticks and 1 with Crayola crayons. So there's that one. This is this one. What I'm referring to is the pattern work on here. That's all done using the crayons, whether they're Crayola crayons or the dye stick crayons. And then the background I filled in, I think this also was with the dye sticks. The background then I filled in with watercolors, and just watercolors and water. And that's where all the color came from in the background. So, and then we also used stencils that we put under. I had some plates that I had made with fun foam shapes. That's what you see here, these shapes like this. Fun foam, I put the muslin on top of it and rubbed over the surface of the fabric. That is literally called a rubbing you can do the same thing with stencils, and we did put some stencils underneath. That's what this is. All of these designs in here, these are all stencils that I put underneath the fabric and then just rubbed over the top of it. This is another one of those plates that I created using fun foam shapes. So after the color was done, and then see this spotty stuff, that was from this. This is a stamp. It's an old stamp from All Night Media. And that I put under the fabric like this and then rubbed over it with a crayon. And that's how I got those spots on there. So once all the rubbing stuff was on there with the crayons, then I just used watercolor and water and just painted. Then I let it dry. Everything was totally dry. And then I ironed. I put paper towels on both sides of this fabric. And I ironed with a dry iron for several minutes to absorb any of the excess wax from the Crayola crayons, or some of it was there was some excess pigment from the dye sticks that was sitting on the surface. It hadn't penetrated into the fabric, so some of that came off, but not a lot. And the paper towels absorbed all of the wax from the Crayola crayon. This fabric feels 100% just like muslin fabric. Does not have any stiffness. Doesn't have any, adverse qualities. It's just like muslin. And so here's the reverse side. Actually, I love the reverse side also. I love the way the colors blended together. I did tell you that the color was going to lighten, and it did lighten, but it didn't lighten as much as I expected it to. So there's the other side of this one. Now, the question that I'm going to get asked, it always happens, is can you wash it? The answer is no. Don't wash them, okay? You do not want to put these in the wash. You don't want to wash them because the watercolor is not permanent. Even though we heat set it, it is not permanent, so we are not going to wash it. Leah, I think the fabric left the softer look and the crayon results were a little bolder. There you go. Yeah. Oh, did you get your fabric past? Good. Good. I hope you enjoy them. Yeah, I hope you enjoy them. They're fun to use. So I thought what we would do is we're going to do something a little bit like just a tiniest bit like the needle book that I showed you with all of the stitching on it, the cover that I was working on, a little bit, just a little bit like that. So I thought what we would do is take one of these and tear it up, because that's what I like to do. I like to make things and then I like to cut them up. So let's take a look at this and let's see what we can do. So let's see what our size is. I didn't have any idea what I was going to do with this when I created it the other day on Monday. But let's just see how wide this is. It is 6.5 inches in width. So I was thinking that I would do ATCs, but you know what? I think I'm just going to make some art card type things instead. So let's go let's just rip this piece in half and we'll see what we get. And if I had an iron in here, I would iron this, but I don't, and so therefore we're just gonna rip things apart here. Okay, so we have, this should be 3 1/4 thereabouts. So it's a little smaller. It might be 3 1/2 by the time we get done. Maybe that's what we'll do. Okay. All right, let's go along here and let's say that these are the height of an ATC. I think we can make these work into being an ATC here. If we just kind of be a little extra creative here. All right. So that was 3 1/4 tall, thereabouts. So we're going to make this 2 1/4 in width. Okay, so we have that little shape ripped down, and so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to rip this whole little strip into these 2 1/4 wide pieces. And if they're not exact, oh well. If you have any questions about anything, be sure you pop them in the chat. There's no way I will be able to get these finished in today's session. But when I do get them finished, I will give them away. So, it won't be today. But it's good to make things and give them away. That way it keeps us from being too attached to what we have or what we do. Not that I don't have plenty of things that I've made, which I do. I have plenty of things I've made that I can't seem to part with. And I think this one, yeah, we'll go this way. Because we're going to end up with a little bit of weirdness left over, and we'll put that with the other stack. Okay, so let's look at these, and when you cut them down or rip them down, everything looks good when you tear it apart. If in a big piece, they can all look cruddy, but when you tear it up, it always looks good. Okay, always looks good. All right, there's one. I'm just pulling some of the raveling threads off. Here's another one. But do you see how when you cut it or tear it down into little snippets, sometimes you can see interesting things? Like right here, I can see almost like a jack-o'-lantern face in there, which I don't normally see, but I did on that one. Oh, and you can even see it again right there. Okay, and here's another one. And an ATC can go whatever direction you want it to go. It can go lengthwise. It can go, I normally, for whatever reason, use them in the portrait mode. And here's this one. I happen to like the soft edges of the ripped fabric, and sometimes they're Sometimes they're not quite square, and if they're not, then you just take the two opposite corners and just kind of pull on them a little bit. And normally you can straighten them up a little bit. It is, Terry says, a fabric masterboard. That is exactly what it is. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. Take a piece of paper and do all kinds of stuff on it and then tear it up. Okay, there's another one. And be sure you look at it all different directions just so you see what it looks like, all different directions. I mean, that almost looks like a face again right there. There's an ear. Yes, it's good to see what's in your artwork that you didn't see before. There's another one. I like them when they're kind of busy. And then this one that has the big flower shape on it right here. Okay. So now what I think we're going to do, so out of that half of that strip, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there was a little, this was this little piece left. So, and that was just from half of that strip of fabric. All right, so here's what I think we'll do. I have a whole box of felt. Here we go. I have a whole box of felt over here, so I think we're going to back these with some felt, and then I think we'll stitch on them, and we'll see if we can do something fairly quickly. And then while I'm digging in the felt, you can look at this. This was something I just ordered, and it just arrived today. These are pearl cottons, size 8. Okay, so let's see what we can come up with. So these are pearl cotton size 8, and it's a set. Came in a set, and these are all plain colors, where you can get them in. Well, first of all, you can get them in different sizes. And you can get them in variegated as well as plain colors. And I thought, that's just a nice set of plain colors. I also have pearl cottons in different neutrals. These are all variegated. Those are very neutral. Those are not my preferred color. But I bought them because I was trying to make myself like neutral. Have you ever tried to do that? Trying to make yourself do those? The pearl cottons came from Amazon. Hi, Jean. And hello to everyone that's here. I know I didn't really call you out by name today, but yeah. Anyway, the other way that you can buy good embroidery types of things is to buy embroidery floss. And I have a whole packet of it, or a whole bag of embroidery floss in the other room, but this is called embroidery floss. Stranded cotton is another word for it. It also comes in variegated, metallic. There's all different ways that it comes. There's 6 strands in those skeins of stranded cotton like that. There's 6 strands to make up one piece. That probably doesn't make any sense, but anyway, there's 6 strands in the thread, but you can easily separate them out. So you can get 1 strand, 2, 3, 4, or you can use the bigger numbers, 5 or 6. Most people, I think, opt for 2 strands or 3 strands, so you have to pull it apart to get your strands of cotton. That's why it's called stranded cotton. Okay? All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm probably going to just chunk out some pieces of this. This is a felt, a wool felt that is it is wool and rayon. Sorry, my brain went on a hiatus there for a second. And I have my scissors here, big scissors. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take one of these and I'm going to oversize it a little bit because I can always use the pieces of the felt for something else. The felt came from joggles.com. I don't know whether Joggles still has the felt like this. I haven't checked it for a while. But I may change my mind as to which one goes on which thing, but we're just gonna cut out some felts to go with these. And then I will cut these down. I will finish cutting these down later. Yeah, I'm just going to cut it out like this. I'll cut these down to the proper size after I'm done with them. And because I like this fuchsia color, I'm going to cut another one. I like the contrast. You can always, black is always good too. You can always use black or dark gray instead of a color, but I just thought, you know, we need some color today, so that's what we're going to use. Okay? All right. So we have 3 more. So maybe I'll do 2 of each. Or let's do 1 with this color. Instead of that same blue, we'll do 1 this color. When I bought the felt, I was getting an assortment of colors to make the soul support dolls, and I wanted just a whole random assortment of colors, and so that's exactly what I did. I just went through the colors on the website and just, I guess this one hasn't been cut into yet, and I just picked out all different bright colors. And I like the felt. I love the 100% wool felt, love that, but that tends to be really pricey. And so I end up most of the time buying the 20, I guess it's 80/20. And it's very nice. It's very nice. And I have one more. I thought I had enough, but let's do one in black just so you can see the what the black does. And I tend to save the tiniest pieces of black and the tiniest pieces of felt, and also of ultra suede. I will keep those scraps, and even though they're really tiny, and I'll use them for other purposes. Okay, so we have one in black. And this is where you can drive yourself nuts deciding what's going to go on what thing, and we're just going to say that's going to go there, and that one's going to go there, and there's one there. And we'll put this one on here. And that's okay, like that. Let's square this up a little bit. Alright, so we have that one, and then we have this one. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so there we go. Joni just got a package from Joggles. Yes, Elizabeth St. Hilaire's things are really quite lovely. Absolutely. Okay, let's start with, we're going to take one, because that's probably all we'll get done today. We're going to take one that is just sort of a basic thing. Nondescript pattern. Maybe this one. We'll set the other ones off to the side here. So maybe we'll have them where you can kind of see them a little bit. And let's work with this one. And I didn't bring any pins in here. I do have some I can probably work with though. These are my glue pins. These are my glue pins, but they'll probably be okay to, since we're just doing a fun little thing here, I'll just put a couple of pins on. Okay? Alright, now let's crack out these new colors and let's use one that's going to show up. And something that maybe we wouldn't normally choose. Let's go with green. Just because. And if that makes your eyes hurt, I'm sorry. Oh, Dorothy's working on her alphabet soup letters. That's cool. Good for you. Alright, I need my needle, so I gotta retrieve it out of the one I'm working on. One of the handiest things that I have, hints that I have found, is to have a tiny pin cushion around all the time. If you have a tiny pin cushion around like this, then what you will do is every time you take the needle out, instead of doing what I often do, which is stick it in I'll weave it into my shirt like this. I'll go like this. So I know where my needle is, but sometimes it falls out of that shirt and falls on the floor. Or you can set it on the table knowing that it's right where we're going to use it. And then a cat jumps up, or something happens and it gets knocked off, and then yeah, you're in trouble, right? So if you have a tiny pincushion right on your area, and you just automatically always stick your needle into that little tiny pincushion, you will be so happy, because then you won't lose it, right? All right, let's find the end of this thread. There it is. The needle that I'm going to use is a chenille needle. This is another tiny pincushion I have. This one I actually made. I have a big mess of thread hanging on it. This one, it's a tiny little pincushion filled with walnut shells, ground up walnut shells, and that is a great one also. Great little pincushion. Okay, don't use a length of thread that's too long. If you work with pearl cotton, which I'm using from that set I showed you in the beginning, you don't take it apart. It is not a stranded cotton, it is a twisted cotton. And you need a needle. This is a number 8. So you need to use a needle that will poke a big enough hole that the thread, it pokes a hole into the fabric big enough so that the thread that it's carrying in the eye of the needle can easily slide through it. So this is a chenille needle. Chenille needles are pointed on the end. They're not blunt. It is a pointed, very sharp tip. And this is, I think it's a number 22. They come in different sizes. I think this is a 22. I'm just going to make a knot in it. Don't use a thread that's too long, because if you do, you'll not be very happy. Alright, so here's my little thing, my little doodad. Okay? And I will square this up later. So it doesn't really matter that it's not super square, because I didn't cut it super square to begin with. But I am going to try to keep it from creeping and getting too cattywampus here. And I thought what we would do is just make, we're going to do something that doesn't require a lot of thought. And that is, I'm just going to do a running stitch. Now I will tell you that your running stitch, you're going to get the best quality running stitch not going this way where you're going in and out in one motion. You're going to get the best quality stitch if you go down, go over, and then come back up, doing it in 2 motions. For the purposes of time, I think we're going to go the other way, but I'm just showing you that the best, in order to get the best and most consistent stitch, if that's important to you, it would be to go down, pull the thread through, come up, pull the thread through. If you're going to go down, up in one motion, sometimes it just kind of does its own thing, and sometimes your stitches aren't quite as even. But you know what? If you're doing this for the purpose of just having something to do, absolutely no one cares. You can even pick up 2 stitches if you're brave. And the stitches on these are going to be a little wonky, because anytime you're showing people how to do something underneath the camera, that tends to be the way of the world. So we're just going to go down, and I highly recommend that you try to use a thimble But if you can't, then just you'll have to kind of break your finger in, or your thumb and finger or whatever, because you probably will need to develop a little bit of a callus on your fingers. Some people can't use a thimble at all. Some people never sew without a thimble. Okay, so there we go. Line 1. Then I'm going to just turn the corner. Now we could do all kinds of fancy stitches on this, and you know what? There aren't going to be fancy stitches on this one, because all I want to do on this one, and maybe on all of these, I don't know, is just the act of pulling fabric through the thread through the fabric. If you have trouble getting your needle to pull through, you can do a couple of things. One is to use this is a jar opener. It's one of those rubber things that you can open jars with. And I just cut it in half, so I had half here and half somewhere else. This is another thing to have, is a smooth pair of needle nose pliers. Okay, don't use the kind that are excuse me, don't use the kind that have serrations or grooves on the jaws, because that will mark your needles. But this is really good. You can get a hold of it, or a piece of a balloon, or a plastic, like a rubber glove, you know, like the kind that, like nitrile or latex. Those will work well also. So if you have any trouble getting your needle to pull through, or you have any hand issues or finger issues, strength issues in your hands, all of those things will help you pull that needle through. The more stitches you load on the needle, the more likely you are to have to use something to pull it through. So if you just get this around your needle, it just pulls right through. And it doesn't have to be nearly this big. I can cut this in half and make 2 more out of that also. But the chenille needle, to me, is the secret to using the purl number 8. I did use a number 5 on one part of on the design that I was doing with the needle book. Number 5 is thicker than number 8, and that was pretty heavy. It also comes in a number 12. I think 5, 8, and 12 might be the most common ones that I use. And all of those are twisted threads. None of those come apart like the stranded cottons. But I'm going to show you what we're going to do when we get around this corner. And every once in a while I just lay it down and smooth it out so that I don't cause a gathered, I don't want to have a gathered situation developing. I want it to stay flat. Alright, and sometimes I have to kind of fudge. You know, it's okay if you got to fudge the distance a little bit. If anybody is worried or is going to measure all your stitches out, you know what? Good on them. It's like measuring quilting stitches. Sometimes people get real excited about how many stitches that they can stitch to the inch. You know what? When they came out, when big stitch quilting became a thing, I thought that's kind of, at first I was a little bit like, ooh, I don't know about that. And then I got to thinking about that, and I thought that's a pretty good idea right there. You can make some tracks on using big stitch quilting. You could quilt the quilt pretty quick. Okay, I'm going to have to kind of fudge here just a little bit so I can get my distance to be the way I want it. Okay, so I've gone all the way around the perimeter of this little piece, right? And I'm not going to close up that rectangle. I'm just going to turn the corner, and I'm going to go, you can vary the distance when you're doing this, but in this case I'm going to go about the same distance from the first line of stitches. I'm going to go first line of stitch to the edge, so about roughly the same distance from here to here, from here to here. I mean, it's not exact, but bye, Carol. Thanks for coming. So what this is going to turn into is a spiral, but it's going to be a square spiral. And I've experimented a little bit with spirals, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. And everybody develops the way that they like to do things. And I'm just going to use my jar opener and just pull the needle rather than try to make my hands do any more work. My hands are a little bit sore because I have stitched a lot this week. That happens when you need some place for your energy to go. Okay, so now I've come to the corner here. Again, I'm just going to turn the corner, keeping about the same distance as much as I can. When I get around this round, I will show you on the other ones about doing the circular spirals. We are back in the summer heat this week. It is supposed to be like 96 or 98 degrees here tomorrow. And don't you know that how lucky could we be that we're supposed to have a football game outside, of course, and it was supposed to start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, and our seats are on the east side of the stadium, which means the sun just beats on you. Absolutely beats you in the face, like there's no tomorrow. So the university or somebody, I don't know who, took pity on the football players and fans and everybody else. Anyway, they moved it up to noon. So that's supposed to be better, and I'm going to trust that they know what they're talking about. But yeah, I think it's going to be real hot tomorrow. I think I'm not going to put on anything but sunscreen tomorrow in my face, because I think it's just foolish, because I don't think anything else will stay on my face. I think it will just slide right off. Yeah. All right. Can you believe it? 98 degrees in the middle of September. unusual for here, but it's not uncommon for football games to have start in the blistering heat and end up in the you know, deep freeze cold. Yeah. It's cold and rainy there. That would be nice. I wouldn't mind that, actually. Although I can't say that I much enjoy going to athletic sporting events in the rain. That's not really my favorite either. Okay, so I'm almost over here to the corner. Let me just get to the corner and let's turn the corner here, and then I'll show you the circle spirals. I'm not going to show it to you so much as explain to you what. Okay, so there we are with the green thread stitching around and around and around in a rectangular spiral, as it were. Okay, let's take a look at these circular spiral motifs here. These were pieces of fabric I cut out, and the reason this one has a hunk out is because there was another circle. Could have been this one, I don't know, that was up against there, and I separated them. Anyway, so there's this one, this one, this one, that one, this one, and this one, and that one. Those were all pieces from a piece of fabric that had those motifs on it. So I tried different things. On some things, on one of these I started from the center and stitched out. Another one and I did the in and out instead of down and up, down and up. I did in and out on this one, and so I ended up taking it out because the whole thing looked terrible. When I started in the middle and tried to go around in a circle, that looked terrible, and so I was having a terrible time. Let's just say that. I was having a terrible time. So what I found that worked much better was to start at the edge, the outer edge, and work around the outer edge and gradually move inward until I finally ended in the center. And then I started out here and I worked from the outside in on these. This was a bit of a challenge right in here because of that hunk being gone. So this is not quite as this little area. All of these are in rows, but this little area is kind of haphazard. But I found that I got a much more even spiral by starting on the outside, and also by going stab method, where I stab down and pull back up. 2 motions for each stitch instead of the in and out method. Okay? So that is what I found to be the most effective, even on partial circles, to go from the outer edge in toward the center. So that's what I did on all of these. I started at the outside and worked in. And I did the center, the little center part where there was a division of color. I started and did the center first and then did the outer ring second. That was what I did. And on this one I did the same thing. I started and did the little circle, and then I went out and did the outer circles. So that's just what I found worked for me. Of course, there are all kinds of ways to do things, and you may have a much better way. You may have the way that you learned to do when you were a kid, that your grandma or your mom taught you, and it's the only way you've ever done it, and it works for you. Then you know what? You should keep doing that. But if you are new at it and you're trying to figure out how to make something circular, if you'll start with a circle, you might even draw a circle on, or you might pin a light card, like a cardstock circle. You might pin that onto your fabric and stitch around that so you have a circle to go from, or draw around a circle with a chalk marker or something that you can get out of the fabric later. You know, at least brush it away or heat it away, or what else? Wash it, dab it with a little bit of water to make it dissolve. You might do that. But start with a drawing. You just don't want something that's going to be permanently part of your cloth unless that's part of your design element. Like I wouldn't use a micron pen to draw a circle on your fabric, because there's no getting that out of there. And some people will not use a friction pen. Some people will, some people won't. Some people like chalk markers, some people don't. I mean, it's a really personal thing, I'm finding, with people in the way that they choose, in the materials that they use, the needles they use, the marking tools they use. Another thing you can use for straight lines is tape, like painter's tape or scotch tape. Something that, be sure you don't use something that has too much stickiness on it. If it has too much sticky, it might disturb your fabric or disturb the pigment. In this case, where we've applied pigment to the fabric, it might actually disturb that. When you pull the tape off, it might leave a stripe behind, a lighter stripe or a vacant stripe as you pulled it off. That wouldn't be ideal, that's for sure. And some chalk marking pencils or marking devices with chalk, sometimes the dye in the chalk doesn't want to come off light colored fabric very easily, and if you're not going to wash it, it might be a real problem. So you know, I always tell you to do this. I don't do it myself very much because I like to live dangerously. But if you really want to know the results of something, then it's best if you do a test ahead of time. I'm not the world's best at doing that, especially if it's just something for me. If it's something that I'm going to do for a class, yeah, that's totally different. I will test it. I'll test it and find out what it's going to do. Another thing you can do on something like this, instead of putting felt behind the fabric, you can put a little piece of batting, like quilt batting. But you want to use the thin stuff. Okay, this is quilt batting. This is a cotton quilt batting, but it's very thin. And that's what I'm stitching through on this. And then you can use the felt to actually hide your stitches. Stitch the felt on afterwards and hide your stitching with the felt. In this case, I may just let the felt and the thread be a part of the decoration. I don't know. We'll find out. So at some point here pretty soon, we're going to get down to where we have to decide what we want to do about this, because we're going to get rapidly to where there is not much room left. And I'm going to also run out of thread. So tell me what you think. Do you think we should continue with the green thread, or do you think we should switch to a different color thread? Because we can do that. We're in charge. We're making it up as we go. So tell me what you think in the chat. And we're just about ready to have to make that decision. And I particularly like the variegated threads for stitching. You get some really interesting looks with the variegated threads. But I'm finding that I really like the pearl cottons to stitch with. Okay. Alright, what do you guys think? Use pink thread to bring the felt color in. You know, I was kind of thinking about pink, honestly, Dorothy. I was kind of thinking about that. Alright, let's get across the end here. There is a nice pink in this collection. Okay, let's just go down here to the back. And then we'll start with a new color here in a second. I think pink would be good. I don't have a hot pink, but I have a nice, it's kind of an interesting pink. But it's not really the right pink for that background. Let's see, I have a lighter pink. I don't have a wide assortment of pinks. We can do this pink or this one. This one is a melon. This is like a melon color, this one. And this one is more like this same color of pink but lighter. What do you think? I'm kind of leaning toward that one. What do you think? I don't think I have any other pinks at all in the pearl cotton. I don't. You like the light one? Dorothy says the darker one. Sharon says the lighter one. Dorothy says go with this one. It's a real melon color, Dorothy. Do you think that'll work? Let's all right, let's lay it out, because you really can't tell using the whole spool up there. It doesn't let us see it. The light one may read as white. Dorothy's our stitching expert. Okay, the stitcher people, Nana and Dorothy, said go dark. All right, if we don't like it, we can always pull it out. It's okay. There's no law that says it has to stay in there if I don't like it. All right, let's try it. You don't know until you try it, you know? And I'm telling you, I have tried the trick of taking the needle to the thread rather than the thread to the needle to thread it. I'm just not good at that. I'm really not. I've tried. I'm just not good at it. So I just do it the old-fashioned way. Yep, I do. All right, so we're going to start here. I'm going to give myself a down and an up to get started, and then we'll probably do the in and out. The needle is easier to pull through the quilt batting, I have to say, than to pull through the felt. This felt is a little more densely created, so it's a little more challenging to get the needle through it. I think you're right, Dorothy. I think this was the right color pink. I do think it was the right color. Good choice, Dorothy and Purple Nana. Good choice. They know what they're talking about, those two. They do. Color is an important aspect of this. Probably more important than the actual stitches is the color. It doesn't have that intensely melon color showing up as it did when it was in the ball laid on the up against this fuchsia pink. Isn't that funny? All right, we're almost to be done with this. And then I bought this piece of fabric. It was at a quilt store, and it was a piece of fabric. The only thing on it is words. That's where all those words came from that you saw in some of the examples I showed you earlier. Here. This one that says today. Fleeting explorer. This one inside was inspire. It's just all kinds of words like that. And I just cut them out and just backed them with most of the time I backed them just with fabric, just cotton. I think I backed a couple of them with felt, but most of them Like this one is just cotton, so it's just thin cotton. And this is the raw edge. The word is raw edge of the fabric, and then I just whip stitched it down. And yeah. So we might actually, I have this one prepared for something else, but you know, maybe what we'll do is just put it on here. I don't know. Seems like that would be a good word to use, maker. And I'm going to just go one more line of stitching right down the middle. And we will have created a square spiral. So you can do that same idea of a spiral. Let me zoom in a little bit more. You can do the same idea of a spiral with any shape on the outside edge. Doesn't have to be square or rectangle or circular. It can be an irregular shape. It can be anything. Just follow the outside edge and work your way inside, and yeah, that's all you got to do. Okay. Okay, so there is our sweet little ATC-esque thing. And let's see how much we have to cut this off. We'll see. I'm going to square it up by hand. This could be dangerous, but all right. 2.5 by 3.5. Basically, I need to leave 1/8 of an inch all the way around. It's pretty square. It's relatively square anyway. Okay, so here's our little bit, and we could just add the word maker or any other kind of word on there. I tend to like them on an angle, but of course you could put, but if we put them straight across then we lose all our pink. So maybe what we'll do, just so that it all shows up, is put it down here toward the bottom. Tell me what you think of that. You think that'll work to put it across the bottom or closer to the bottom? Then we can still see the pink and the green. Hey Signa. Hi Alicia. You like it? Okay. I don't think I have any regular sewing thread in here. What colors do I have? Now I have blue and I have blue might work. That blue might work. Let's see if we can make the blue work. If I don't like it, I'll take it out and do it again. It looks too bold to you, Dorothy. Oh, Dorothy. It's all I've got. It's all I got. We're going to have to make it work because it's what I have. Okay, Dorothy, you got to work with me, girl. You got to work with me. You just got to work with me, Dorothy. Come on now. You got to be a good sport, Dorothy. That Dorothy's trying to give me trouble. She's probably right, but you know what? She's probably right, but we gotta make it work. And I'm just gonna use sewing thread. Hey, Malia, good to see you. How are you? Dorothy doesn't have to live with it. Listen to her. Listen to her. Dorothy says she doesn't have to live with it. Listen to her. I'll tell you what, that Dorothy girl. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and keep this on camera, which is but easier said than done. We're going to whip stitch this on in the blue. Maybe the blue will calm it down, Dorothy. You never know. So I'm just going to use an overcast stitch, which means you just go over the edge. So I'm keeping the stitch straight on the top and going at an angle underneath. I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Let me get around to the where I'm going to turn the corner, and then I'll turn the piece over and show it to you. Now Dorothy's the one that wanted us to use that real colorful pink, but she said this is going to be too bold. I don't know. Now I got a knot in the thread. Don't you love it when you get a knot in your thread? If you stop and you don't pull it too hard, sometimes you can back yourself out of those knots. And this is just sewing thread that I'm using. This is actually a machine embroidery thread that I'm using. Happens to be a cotton. That's why it's kind of like sewing with a hair after sewing with the number 8 pearl cotton. This feels like sewing with a hair. Okay, in the corner I'm going to go down. I'm going to do 3 stitches around the corner. I'm going to go down, I'm going to come back up in the same hole or close to the same hole that I just used. I'm going to go down across the end of the corner, diagonally across the corner. I'm going to come up in that hole yet one more time or close to it, and I'm going to go down on the other side. So it makes that little corner a little decorative, just a little bit decorative. Okay. Alright, so you see how the stitches on the front, on the right side here, are perpendicular to the edge, but if I turn it over, let's see, they're going at an angle. The blue threads are going, they're slanted. So I'm going straight, the stitch on the front is straight, up and down or up and down, but as I travel, I'm traveling across the back of the fabric, which is what makes it have that slanted appearance on the back. You could do it the other way around if you wanted to, and you could have the slanted stitch on the top and the straight stitches on the bottom. I've done that before too. See? So this just further adds to the slow stitching element of this little ATC thing that we're doing here. And sometimes I end up with a little slanted stitch on the top and the bottom because I'm doing this at an angle which is kind of goofy. It's a hand-done thing, folks. It's a hand-created. Let's see if we can make her nice and flat. There's nothing in this that has been complex today. This is just all about having a place to give yourself a break today. And that one was too far off, so you know when that happens, sometimes you just have to stop and take out a stitch or two, and then you got to rethread. If you can't live with it, just unpick it. Rethread your needle. Go again. Oh, if I didn't have to do this on camera, that would help. If I didn't have to thread a needle on camera. Got it. Okay, let's try again here. So I don't know if you saw what I did, but in order to figure out why I wasn't getting it straight, I just held the thread up so I could see where straight was, and then went down beside the fabric there. So you can always lay your thread in the direction that you want to stitch. That way when you're trying to get something straight, you got a better shot at making it straight. All right, this is unbelievably boring for you guys to watch. Let me turn this corner over here one more time just so you can see the corner, in case that was confusing a moment ago. So this stitch is going to be at the corner. That's where the needle is going to come out. So the needle is coming out. I'm going to go down beside the fabric, come up and about in the same stitch again, the same hole. Then I'm going to go across the corner, diagonally across. I'm going to come up through the same hole, or about the same hole again. Don't pull it too tight, and then come down on the other side for the third stitch. So you've gone through the same hole 3 times. This one could have been over just a little bit further. Not my best corner that I've ever turned here. This stitch right here should be over a little bit further, but you got the idea. Look at this one over here. That's a good corner. This one's kind of a crappy corner. I'm going to have to redo that one. Anyway, let me stick my needle in my pin cushion. So there is our little HTGC. I will put a backing on it, probably another layer of felt, and stitch this onto it so it has a little bit more stiffness to it, just because I like that. And there you go. So we took a little piece of fabric that we created. It was a big experiment the other night. We created ourselves. It worked. It made a nice background, gave us something to stitch into, gave us a way to have a place to stick our emotions for a few minutes, park the emotions for a few minutes, and from there we're going to get on with our day. So listen, the lesson from today: listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, and do something that you can do where you are to make an impact. Love people around you, be kind to them, do nice things, even if you don't agree with them. Be nice to people, okay? Be nice to each other, be kind to each other. That's the one thing we are commanded to do, is to love each other, and we can do that. There are going to be sad days and sad times in our lives. That doesn't mean we can't still love each other. Okay? All right. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I will be back on Monday. I hope it's going to be, I will endeavor to do something fun on Monday. I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll do some goofy relatives or something. We need a break. We need to do some break, don't we? Something fun. So I'll be back Monday night at 7 Eastern. Until then, as always, do something creative. Park your emotions. Just give yourself a little break. And I'll be back, and I'll see you on Monday. Until then, be nice, be kind, and be creative. And I'll see you soon. Bye for now.